I found $473 million buried on my own farm, which made me the most wanted man in Colombia, even more than Pablo Escobar himself during those months of 1991. The greatest irony of this whole story, and no one knows it to this day. I was born in 1952 in a hamlet that didn't even have an official name. 3 hours by mule trail from Envigado, there was a wattle and daub house with a rusted zinc roof that sounded like machine gun fire when it rained. The floor was packed earth, which my mother swept 3 times a day, as if that would change anything. There were 8 of us siblings sleeping on 3 cots, taking turns on a straw mattress that smelled of dampness and defeat. My father, Aurelio Londoño, grew coffee on a plot so steep the plants grew almost horizontally, clinging to the hillside the way we clung to life. He worked that land for 63 years and died without ever owning a pair of shoes. We buried him in borrowed espadrilles. The smell of my childhood was wood smoke mixed with the sour sweat of poverty. The sound was my mother praying the rosary at 4 in the morning, asking for a miracle that never came. The texture was my cracked hands at 8 or 10 years old, picking coffee beans under a relentless sun. By age 12, I could read the land better than any university agronomist. I could stick my hand into the soil, read it, taste it, and tell my father exactly where to plant, how much to water, and when to harvest. Once I told him to move the plantain trees 20 meters uphill because water pooled there. He laughed at me. 3 months later, he lost the entire crop to a pest that developed in the puddle I had predicted. "This boy has something," he told my mother that night while counting coins that weren't enough for anything. "He has the gift of the land." The gift of the land. That's what they called it. I called it observation and common sense. But back then, nobody gave fancy names to things. The point is, by 15, the neighbors were already looking for me to tell them where to dig wells. I got 17 out of 17 right. The 18th well I dug for Don Bernardo Mejia, a landowner with 40 hectares across the river. I found water at 7 meters deep, when 3 engineers from Medellin had said there was nothing there. "You have a treasure in those hands, my son," Don Bernardo told me as he paid me 5,000 pesos, more money than my father earned in 3 months. "But be careful. Treasures attract thieves." I didn't understand that warning until 26 years later. At 18, I got a job on a large coffee estate owned by a man who lived in Medellin and only showed up for harvest. They told me I was a field manager, but it was just a fancy title for doing everything: planting, pruning, spraying, carrying 70-kilo sacks up the mountain, paying wages, keeping accounts, settling fights between drunk workers, all for 120,000 pesos a month. I learned to handle money by watching Don Hernando, the estate accountant, a bald old man with thick glasses who had been balancing books for 40 years. I learned the secrets of numbers by watching how he hid the owner's real profits to skim a percentage for himself. I learned that everyone steals, only the size of the theft and the elegance of the method change. By 25, I was managing 3 farms at once, but still earning 180,000 pesos. I saw the rich spend 20 million on New Year's parties in Cartagena. I saw them arrive in their Toyota Land Cruisers with their wives and spoiled children. And I felt something that wasn't envy. It was rage. Pure, slow, silent, poisonous rage. The rage of someone who knows he's worth more than he's paid. The rage of someone who understands the system is designed to keep him exactly where he is. In 1983, I gathered everything I had saved in 15 years of honest work. 4,300,000 pesos. Miserable, but enough to buy 12 hectares of Monte Bravo in a hamlet called El Tablazo, 40 minutes from Santa Elena, land no one wanted because it was nothing but rock and weeds, land I knew was perfect. It took me 2 years to clear it alone with a machete and hoe. My hands bled so many times I lost count, but by 1985 I had my farm. I called it La Esperanza because that was all I had left. In March 1986, everything changed. A man arrived at my farm in a wine-red Chevrolet Love pickup with tinted windows so dark you couldn't see inside. He wore a wrinkled beige linen suit and a gold Rolex that shone like a small sun on his wrist. His mustache was trimmed with military precision, Paisa accent, but with money, a lot of money. He got out alone, no visible bodyguards, though I knew there were at least 2 men in the truck. "Are you Jorge Londoño?" he asked, without greeting, looking at my farm with calculating eyes. "That's me. And who are you?" "My name is Rodrigo Arango," he said, removing his sunglasses to look directly at me. "They tell me you have a special gift, that you can find things buried." "Water," I corrected. "I find water. But other things too." "No," I said. Back then there were already rumors about buried treasures, indigenous hoards, emerald caches. People spoke of men who had found fortunes and men who had died looking for them. I didn't want to be either. "Don Bernardo Mejia told me about the well," Rodrigo continued. 17 out of 17. That's not luck, that's talent. What do you need?" "I need you to find something for me. Something buried on a farm near here. It's not water." "What is it?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that if you find it, I'll pay you 10 million pesos in cash. Today if you want." 55 times what I earned in a month. Enough to finish fixing my house, buy cattle, live peacefully for a couple of years. But I also knew nobody paid that kind of money for water or indigenous treasures. That kind of money is only paid for one thing. "Is it merchandise?" I asked, using the word everyone used to avoid saying cocaine. Rodrigo smiled, showing perfect white teeth. "It's money," he said. "A lot of money. Buried years ago by someone who can't come back for it. I know roughly where it is. You help me find the exact spot." "Why me?" "Because you're discreet, because you live alone, because you don't have a family to protect, and because Don Bernardo says you're the only son of a bitch in all of Antioquia who can find a needle in a haystack." I didn't ask who had buried the money, why they couldn't retrieve it, or anything else. I just said yes. Translation continues faithfully, preserving all structure and meaning. Now, I'm in a boarding house in Chapinero. I've been here 6 days. The shoulder wound is healing, but I still can't move my left arm properly. I have $43,000 in cash hidden in the mattress, the deeds to my land in a safe deposit box at a downtown bank, and a fake passport under the name Pedro Gomez Restrepo in my jacket pocket. Outside, it's raining. The sound of water against the window reminds me of the zinc roof of my childhood. The smell of dampness reminds me of the Wattle House where I was born. Everything I tried to escape. Everything that follows me. I have to decide in the next few hours whether to stay in Colombia and try to recover my land or go to Venezuela with what I have and start over. If I stay, sooner or later someone will recognize me. Some hitman with a good memory, some informant looking for a reward. Pablo's war against the world won't end anytime soon, and as long as it lasts, anyone who worked for him is in danger. If I leave, I lose everything. The land, the future, the only thing that connects me to who I was before all this began. The boarding house phone rings in the hallway. The owner answers. I hear her muffled voice through the door. "Pedro Gomez!" she shouts. "Phone call for you!" No one knows I'm here. No one should know I'm here. I get up, walk to the door. My hand trembles as I touch the knob. Across the hallway, the owner holds the receiver with a bored expression. Behind her, through the window, facing the street, I see a wine-red Chevrolet Love pickup pulling up in front of the boarding house. Tinted windows. The same tinted windows from 5 years ago. The same truck. I look at the phone. I look at the window. I look at the back door that leads to the courtyard. I have to decide now.